Welcome back to Health Angel Solutions, everyone. Today, we're going to discuss 6 habits that harm the thyroid gland. These habits are obviously important because if you are aware of them, you may be able to treat your thyroid condition. For this reason, at Health Angel Solutions, we are concerned about these habits. I am a specialist in helping people lose weight and managing hormone imbalances related to the thyroid. So let's get into the matter at hand, which is habits that harm the thyroid gland. As I mentioned previously, they are obviously significant because you can avoid these things if you can identify which habits cause this. And I base this on the thousands of comments I've received on my YouTube videos and other materials. I can kind of space out the questions people ask about the problems they're having without them really letting me know. Part of the tricky thing here is figuring out what's actually important, especially if you're a patient, because many people don't even really know what to focus on, especially if they have thyroid problems. In my opinion, these are the 6 most common habits that I see people doing based on comments and things that I've mentioned before. Obviously, these things have a negative impact on your thyroid. So if you have any of them, you should address them as soon as possible. Let's start with number 1, not getting enough sleep. I've focused on this in the past and even in more recent videos when I talked about what I think is the 5 or 6 things that you should be focusing on in 2020. Sleep is one of the most important factors to consider if you want to improve your thyroid gland. One of the bad habits that people are either not forming or are already forming is not getting enough sleep, which can have a number of negative effects on your thyroid. To start, inadequate sleep directly affects your 3 and T4 levels. Studies have shown that people who sleep less or experience sleep deprivation for a brief period of time experience a reduction in their thyroid hormone levels. Yet it also makes inflammation worse. I won't go into details here, but it does increase inflammation in your body, and inflammation lowers the rate function, which has a negative impact on the thyroid, both directly and indirectly. For those with thyroid conditions, such as hypothyroidism, I advise getting enough sleep. The magic number is 8+, and I include a plus because many of you will discover that you have what we'll just loosely refer to as a sleep debt. Many people dispute the idea that your body accumulates sleep debt, but in my experience, I believe this to be more true than untrue. You may hear our sleep scientists dispute this, but I have seen plenty of people who, after receiving the necessary amount of sleep minus 10+ hours, even sleep up to 12 hours, especially on multiple days in a row. When you finally give your body the time it needs to recover, your thyroid and hormone levels will naturally improve. As a result, make sure you are getting enough sleep. I won't go into that further, but the second thing is that you may not be taking the right supplements. In this case, I'm talking about thyroid-specific supplements. I know that many of you are already taking supplements in general, especially if you're reading this kind of material or if you've done any independent research on the subject of your thyroid. The supplements I'm referring to here are those that are targeted specifically at your thyroid gland. I'll refer to them as thyroid-specific supplements. I know that supplements like zinc, selenium, and iodine are important for the thyroid, but what I didn't realize is that there are better supplements for people with thyroid problems than just taking something like high doses of zinc, high doses of selenium, or even medium to high doses of iodine. This is something that I see a lot of people doing, and by the way, I've done this before, so it's not like this isn't something I'm chastising you about. I would actually add a 4th point in there and say your gut health in general. All of these things can be targeted specifically with thyroid. I've used the specifically but thyroid-specific supplements, so those things which address those individual components of thyroid function. So when I say you're not taking the right supplements or when you're just taking supplements, that's because, while they may be potentially beneficial, they're not targeting the real things that you care about if you have thyroid problems. I'm talking about the Tiger 8 particular supplements here, but if you're not taking them already, you should really check them out as they really do make a big difference. So keep that in mind if you're supplementing well on your own, but make sure that you can and are doing the right thing is what I'm trying to say. If you're just taking random supplements or generic multivitamins and the like, those aren't bad for you, but they won't give you the same results as these thyroid-specific supplements. Thirdly, ingesting inflammatory oils okay. So what I really mean by that is that I'm talking about vegetable oils, and I would consider this to be a kind of subtle sabotage of many excellent thyroid diets. In other words, there are many ways to follow a healthy diet, but not in the right way. For example, there are ways to follow the keto diet or even the gluten-free diet, which are both healthy diets, but they can't be followed in a healthy way because many people follow them in an unhealthy way by using the incorrect kinds of fats and oils. And the oils I'm referring to here are vegetable oils, so anything that is labeled as such as maize oil or canola oil, falls under this category. Oil from rapeseed, safflower oil, and sunflower oil are just a few that immediately spring to mind. There are many more, but why should you care? These oils cause inflammation in the body and are present in almost all processed foods, including most restaurants. In addition, chefs use these oils because they are so inexpensive. Thus, if you're not monitoring the fats you eat, there's a good chance that you're eating these things and they're causing inflammation. Recall that we discussed the importance of inflammation when we discussed sleep because if you have any kind of inflammation in your body, high inflammation leads to low thyroid conversion, which affects your thyroid either directly or indirectly, depending on how you want to look at it. However, you must avoid these oils because if you don't, you could be undermining your best efforts. There are a few strategies you can take to address this. Firstly, you should not consume processed food. However, some healthy foods that you find at stores like Costco or Trader Joe's contain some of these bad oils. So you should be aware of them if you're buying any sort of pre-made, processed, or packaged foods. You can also learn about all the bad oils and learn to simply look at every single oil whenever you buy a food. You can look on the ingredient list, and you usually find oils up in the top 1 through 5 ingredient list of any sort of processed food. Therefore, you have two options. Either learn about them all and choose to avoid them, or take the simple route and only eat the healthy oils, of which I would advise consuming extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. If you use those oils, you really don't need to worry about the other ones. Yes, you will need to prepare your own food. You will also find that most restaurants won't use these oils for cooking because, as I mentioned before, they are far more expensive than, say, canola oil. And if you don't believe me, go visit Costco and compare the pricing of extra virgin olive oil and maize oil. It's just much more economical for a restaurant or anyone who produces food in large quantities to use these types of oils rather than the healthy ones. But they do have an impact on your health, so whether you choose to purchase the healthy oils now or later, paying for them up front will benefit you because your health won't suffer later. However, be aware that these oils can affect your thyroid and are kind of sneaky and sinister, and they can be found in a lot of foods. The next one would be avoiding vegetables, which would be a bad habit that I see some people do not often, but I at least want to address it here. So why do you think it would matter if you're someone who has thyroid problems? And as I said, I think these are one of the main ways that people sabotage their own diets, so pay attention to that. By the way, these, in my opinion, also contribute to a lot of weight gain, not just because they're fats, but because of this inflammatory process. But that's a video for another time. Certain vegetables contain goitrogens. Some of these include healthy vegetables like broccoli and kale. Patients may say, well, I know what to do. I should avoid these vegetables because of their potential goitrogenic effects. However, this is where you kind of have to consider both sides of the debate and sort of weigh the pros and cons. Even though it is true that these vegetables have the potential to cause goiter in the body, the benefits of eating vegetables far outweigh any potential drawbacks. And in order to see a significant reduction in thyroid function, you would have to consume an excessive amount of vegetables. That would be like eating nothing but broccoli every day for 2 weeks, which is just not realistic. Furthermore, it would take a significant amount of these healthful vegetables to produce any discernible or measurable thyroid function problems. Who are going to be doing that? And even if you were worried about that, all you would have to do is steam your food, which reduces the goitrogens sufficiently that it probably has no effect. Therefore, I don't want to hear anyone telling me that you should avoid broccoli, kale, or vegetables or any other food because they have goitrogenic effects. That is simply untrue, though there may be a very small number of people who do. I doubt that I've encountered anyone who fits this description, but I'm sure that there are one or two of you out there who are listening and may have noticed a change in your symptoms when ingesting these veggies in large quantities, so just keep that in mind. But for the vast majority of you, minus 91.9%, minus 92.9.8%, vegetables should not be avoided in any way, shape, or form because their benefits far outweigh any potential risks. So the bottom line is to eat your veggies. The other issue is that you may be eating too much soy because soy contains these unique ingredients. Let me reiterate that there is some debate over the intake of soy and soy-based foods. Let me briefly clarify the situation and share my personal opinion with you. Yes, there may be some potential health benefits to soy consumption, and I won't deny that. If you look through the literature, there are some studies that suggest it might be helpful. But here's the issue. 90% of soy products are processed and contain genetically modified organisms, GMOs. While it is possible to find some healthy soy products that don't negatively impact your thyroid too much, the majority of soy and processed soy foods have the potential to be harmful. So I advise most thyroid patients to avoid them entirely. They function similarly to the goitrogens we discussed earlier, but with a slightly stronger goitrogenic effect from BAD cheese or vegetables. In addition, they have other detrimental effects on the thyroid, and because they contain phytoestrogens, they may also cause issues with activating certain estrogen receptors and other issues. Therefore, in my opinion, soy should be avoided altogether, especially if you have Hashimoto's disease or anything similar. However, some people with thyroid conditions can benefit from consuming organic soy-based food products. For example, people who have had their thyroid removed completely may have only had thyroid cancer and never really experienced any thyroid conditions throughout their life. They also do not have an autoimmune disease or any inflammatory processes. These individuals can safely use organic soy products. However, if you have regular hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's thyroiditis, soy is not something you should be consuming. This is because soy is a processed food and can be found in many different foods. So you may be consuming it without realizing it. Now, that's the way I look at it. The sixth would be ignoring your adrenal function, or you could say ignoring your cortisol level. Let's see if you guys can see that. Yeah, I just wrote that down there. But basically, cortisol is a stress hormone that your body produces. When you're under stress, really, that's what happens now. So you have to understand what these inflammatory oils are and what soy goes by in terms of its different names so that you can avoid it. So don't think about it again. I recommend just don't consume soy. The thyroid is directly impacted by cortisol, and the thyroid directly affects cortisol. So in essence, I'm saying that neglecting your adrenals is bad because most people who do so don't realize the negative effects that stress has on their thyroid and body as a whole. In addition, I would say that many people with thyroid disease don't take care of their adrenals, and I believe that almost every thyroid patient should be taking adrenal supplements or other therapies that target adrenal function. That's what I'm talking about here if you haven't or have never addressed your adrenals. And by that, I mean things like taking adrenal gland coolers or adrenal adaptogens, ashwagandha, rhodiola, and things like that. Thus, these treatments target your adrenal glands, which in turn can indirectly help your thyroid. Considering how stressed out our modern world it is, I really think that treating your adrenal glands is on par with taking probiotics, omega-3 fatty acids, and vitamin D. In fact, it's just one of those standard treatments that everyone with a thyroid should be taking, so pay attention to your adrenals. Don't overlook your cortisol levels. In fact, make sure you've tested. There are tutorials available for that as well. By the way, this also involves regulating your stress. it is somewhat related to sleep. Hence, these things are somewhat interconnected. That is all I have to say about these 6 habits. If you've been doing any of these things, which I believe a lot of people are doing without even realizing it, please let me know in the comments section below. I'd also like to know which of these you've been doing. If you're surprised by anything I've said, please feel free to comment below. As well, since these are again based on the comments that I've seen you guys leave, if you haven't already, and I'm curious to see what you guys kind of think about it. Thank you for watching this video on the habits that damage your thyroid. We hope you found the information helpful and insightful. By becoming aware of these harmful habits, you can take steps to protect and support your thyroid health. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to Health Angel Solutions for more valuable health tips and advice. Stay healthy and take care.